Right then, year 12. First things first, I hope you're all well and families are all good. Now, I set some work about 4 or 5 days ago, which was a PowerPoint with me talking over the top. Now, quite frankly, the quality was terrible and I would not blame you if you didn't really use it. So instead, I've now got this working on Google. So hopefully, if this works, I can talk you through step by step about the next task. So let me share my screen with you guys now. Let's hope this works. All right, cool. So I'll try and make this as quick as possible. Let me just take it off there. What basically I'm trying to do is, some people are asking, can I start my coursework or can I get ahead? You know, there's a tendency now, because you've got a bit of time, that you might want to write a load of your coursework now. The truth is, if you do it now, it's not going to be very good, just because you're not going to have a clear argument. It's not going to link together. So the work I'm setting is not just trying to keep you busy or trying to fob you off with doing something. We're going to go through each monarch and understand the causes of the rebellions. And then when you get to the end of Elizabeth in like 3 or 4 homeworks time, it will mean you'll understand the whole time period, and writing your coursework will be so much easier. So this guide here is not only to set the next bit of homework, it's also to help you out with regards to things to do along the way, which will save you so much time in the long run. So a quick sort of going over what is the NEA. So the non-examined assessment is another word for coursework. So first things first, you know that it has to be independently researched by yourselves and written by you. The reason why this I've made clear at the start is because so many students are used to the idea of doing a few lessons on a topic and then writing what you've learned in lesson for homework. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's what we do with Britain, that's what you guys do with Russia. But instead, this is different. They want to see the process. They want to see what books you've used. They want to see you use primary sources, other interpretations. This is your independent project. So although I'm going to give you loads of research and knowledge, the vast majority of it is all down to you and how you want to do it. It has to be between 3,500 and 4,500 words. It can't be over 4,500. And the final 2 things that it says there in that 3rd paragraph is 2 things I'm going to mention now, which you're not going to get worried about. So don't panic if you've not heard of this yet, but it's something to bear in mind in case you come across these things in your research. The first thing is they want to see you use primary sources. Okay, so that might be a speech from the time, it might be a law, an act, something, and that can be used to help back up what you're saying. So for example, in Henry VIII's Pilgrimage of Grace, there is a banner with the 5 wounds of Christ. Now you might find that banner and put that in what they call the appendix, the back of your work, and then when you're referring to the Pilgrimage of Grace and you're speaking about how it might have been caused by religion, you can use that primary source to back up what you're saying. You can say that the reason they had the 5 wounds of Christ on their banner shows that it had a religious motive. And the other thing is interpretations. Okay, this is something that you will come across the more you research. An interpretation is a historian's view of a period of history. So when you come across a specific rebellion or a certain time period or a certain monarch, you're going to have 2 historians who disagree on the same topic. So we'll come back. We'll look at that in a bit more detail in a minute. And it has to be, as you guys know, within 100 years. You don't have to pick your question now. Okay, don't panic. I'm not trying to scare you all and get ahead. I'm trying to give you things that when you come across them over the next few weeks, you can write little notes down to remind yourself to come back to it, to use in your coursework. So it's got to be 100 years. Now, the 100 years you pick, there's got to be a reason behind that. So what I mean by that is, if you think that the Tudor period lasts roughly 114 years, so there's got to be a reason. If you say your question is religion was the main cause of rebellion between 1497 and 1601, there's got to be a reason why you've chosen 1497 to 1601. So the reason is there's 2 major rebellions in those years. It can't just be a random 100-year period or the whole Tudor period. They want to see that you've researched it, picked your question carefully, and then have used rebellions that fit into that context. So very quickly, we've done this before in class, but we'll do it again here. How is it marked? So AO1 is the knowledge, the organisation, the content of what you're doing. That's worth 20 out of 40. AO2 is the analysis of the source material, and again we'll look at that in a minute. And AO3 is how well you analyze and evaluate the 2 or more interpretations you put into your essay. So AO1 is out of 20, and AO2 is out of 10, and AO3 is out of 10. So I would think that the vast majority may go towards a causation question. The reason is that the Tudor rebellions, most of them have 2 or 3 different causes, and so it makes it very easy, and also there's lots of material to use to argue but also counter argue your essay. So an example question is there: religion was the primary cause of rebellion in the period 1497 to 1601. How far do you agree? So again, this is a very simple guide, so I'm watering it right down. Very simply, half your essay will be agree, so yes, religion was the primary cause of these rebellions. However, the other half will be disagree, that actually rebellions were down to other things, mainly like the economy or like politics. It includes a lengthy introduction, conclusion, an appendix, a bibliography, and also references. All those things we'll talk about in the meantime. And also, don't panic. Before you submit this, okay, in many, many months' time, we would have looked through other examples so you can see exactly what it looks like, how other students have approached it, and the length of it, and that sort of thing. So here, although it's quite blurry, you've got down the left-hand side the name and years the monarch was in power, and then the date, the name, and location of the major rebellions. You want to aim for, I believe, between 6 or 7 rebellions, okay? And you can include the ones in Ireland, but for me, it makes it a little bit more complicated, but you're more than welcome to do that. The reason why I say 6 or 7, if you pick more than that, if you pick 12 or 13, then you can't spend much time at all analysing the causes or whatever you've chosen of those rebellions. So you end up just going very quickly from one rebellion to the next, and it ends up being like a story, a narrative, and you get a very, very low mark. If you do too few rebellions, like 3 or 4, then there ends up being massive gaps in between each one you're talking about. And then in your essay, the person reading it, the person marking it, and moderating it, they're wondering why there's a 40-year gap in your essay where nothing seemed to happen. So 6 or 7 is a nice number. 3 or 4 focused on how, yes, religion was the main cause, and 3 or 4 focused on why others were the main cause. And then in conclusion, you can draw on that knowledge to decide overall what you think the main cause was. So why are we not actually starting the coursework now? Well, there's nothing wrong with planning it, okay? Just to put your mind at ease, we are miles and miles and miles away yet from the submission date. But I want to do something during lockdown that A, will be very useful, but B, you can do in your own time as well, okay? You don't need me there every step of the way. You don't need me to give you the guidance and the knowledge, step by step. We can do little things like this and have tutorials, but a lot of it's going to be how much and how well you research in the meantime. So these homeworks that you're doing, and this one today that I'm setting, or sorry, I set this a few days ago, but this PowerPoint's going through, is literally half a page. This will take you maybe an hour to research and 20 minutes to write, okay? So I'm not after an essay for this homework, I'm after half a page or a page of just summing up what you've learned. So just to reiterate, all we're doing with these homeworks is going through each monarch by monarch, what the rebellions were they faced, what were the causes, how they dealt with, and then think about it. We've done that for 4 weeks, and at the end, we can then use everything we've learned to start planning and then finding sources and finding interpretations, and then we can start writing our coursework. It just gets us ahead of the game. So the introduction, you can see here, the intro, your actual coursework, your NEA will be double spaced, okay? So that means that your introduction will be roughly about a page, okay? I say roughly because it could be more or less. But I've written there a very short ending to an introduction where it says, therefore, overall, religion was not the primary cause, as the causation was concentrated to a 35-year period in which political and economic issues were also critical in causing rebellion in conjunction with religious reasons, whilst outside of that period it had no impact in instigating risings. So basically what I'm saying here is, again, this is an example of that question I looked at a couple of slides ago. It's basically saying that the 35-year period around the English Reformation and Henry VIII, yes, religion was a major cause of rebellion. However, outside that 30 or 35-year period, it was mainly down to political and economic reasons. Okay, so that's going a bit deeper than basically saying yes, it was down to religion, or no, it wasn't. It can be down to either certain monarchs or certain time periods where that factor had more of an impact. Now, the interpretations, I won't spend too long on this. What I will say to you, in your reading, if you come across any historian that says something about a rebellion or about a monarch or about a time period, and when I say time period, I mean that's the best one to look at. If you find a historian talking about a 30 or 40-year time period, or let's say the English Reformation, because that was a long drawn-out affair, then write down where you've seen it, okay, and the page number or the website, because you can use that and come back to it. So here what we have is two historians who disagree on how much religion impacted rebellions, in particular around the time of Henry VIII. Now, just putting down those two interpretations, so Davis says this and whoever says that, that's, we'll get you a couple marks. To go deeper, you're thinking about why does that historian have that viewpoint, whereas that one has that viewpoint. So thinking about where they found their information, how it was presented, their education, maybe their religion, where they studied, all these different things come into it. So you're going deeper, and that's what gets you the extra marks. You're thinking about why they have that viewpoint and why it's different to the other one. A primary source. So here, again, don't worry at this stage. We've got loads more time to look at this. But on the websites that we use and in the books, you'll come across certain pages that have got some sources in there. So here you've got from the 1569 Elizabethan rebellion, the revolt of the Northern Earls. You've got here the interrogation or the questioning of one of the ringleaders, the Earl of Northumberland. So again, this would be perfect. You put that in what you call appendix, and your appendix just goes to the back of your coursework where you can put the source that you want to refer to, and then this might be used to explain how religion was a major cause of that rebellion. Okay, it was a fight back, or partly a reason why Catholics revolted against Elizabeth, because they were unhappy about the religious settlement. So that's primary sources. Now, referencing in bibliography, you've probably come across this in other subjects or your EPQ. I've put there a quick, easy referencing guide. If you click that link or copy and paste it, if you can't, let me know. And that talks through a student version of how to reference. Basically, what it means is you think a lot of your information you're getting will be from paragraphs and chapters and websites. And unfortunately, you can't simply reword it and then say, right, that's my part of the essay done. You've got to reference what you use. Okay, so if you rephrase certain things, or if you use a certain author's ideas and work, you've got to put a little reference in there to show where you got it from. Okay, and there's an example of that below where it says the surname, the first initial or the first name, the year it was published, the title of the book, where it was published, and the publication company. So at this stage, I'll highly recommend opening up and saving a new Word document and call it references and bibliography. Okay, and any book you use, anything you use at all for this thing, websites, journals, chapters, audio recordings, podcasts, whatever it is, please make a note of it and save it. I promise you this will save you hours at the end. Imagine writing a 4,500 word essay. You've used 30 or more books, you've used loads of websites, and then you forgot to reference, you forgot the bibliography, and then suddenly you've got to go back and find all those things. It takes hours. So save yourself the time now. Each time you come across something, it takes a few seconds. Just write down for now the name, so the author, the year, the title, and also just put the page number there as well, because then you can come back to it if you need it. So what I would recommend now, because I've not seen you for quite a few weeks, I'm not quite sure exactly when I'm going to see you next. So the books that I've got, we can't use, unfortunately. The website at the top, the WordPress one, is amazing to start off with. Okay, so use that to get your basic knowledge and understanding of the rebellions. I've written down there 3 books beneath that with links with where to get it on Amazon. if you can, I'd really recommend getting the OCR Tudor Rebellion book here. Okay, it's about 15 quid online. It's a small green and white book. The reason why that's so good is not only does it go through rebellions and the monarchs, but it also starts to categorize them for you into religion, into politics, and into the economy. So it makes, to me, once I've read certain chapters, it all made a lot more sense to me when I first started researching it a few years ago. So that's a great book. Also, don't panic. You know, it's like a 200-page book. You're not going to read it all. You're going to read certain chapters, so you won't read it back to back unless you really want to. My revision notes is a really slim guide that sums up the rebellions, the causes, and the aftermath. So that's only a few quid, I think, and that might be worth getting as well. And the bottom one is an A4 book, quite a large one, that was made for the larger Tudor Rebellion course. So that goes into quite a lot more detail. So if you can just get one, go for the top one, the green and white OCR Rebellion book. So what to do now? Well, the first thing is, I think 75% of you have done the first essay on Henry VII. I've pretty much marked most of them now, so I'll give them back to you, the ones that haven't marked, ASAP. For now, open up a separate document. Any books you've used, anything you come across, just stick it in there. Don't think too much about it. Just try and separate it into books, websites, journals, podcasts, whatever. Just stick it down there and keep saving it. The second thing is, do as much background reading as you can. If you're going to go for what caused the Tudor rebellions, which I think most people will, and don't worry, just because people do a very similar question or a like-minded question does not mean you all get the same mark. Okay, I've had people this year who have chosen a very similar question. One's got 39 out of 40 and one's got 15, 16 out of 40. So the question does not matter to how you can access the marks. So do as much reading as you can. And also, this bottom one there, don't worry too much about all the specific knowledge about the Tudors. Okay, it's good if you've got it, but think about, we're going to focus on the rebellions themselves and mainly the causes. So if you're reading a book and it goes into loads and loads of detail about how afterwards they were hung, drawn, and quartered, and all these amazing little nitty-gritty facts, that's good for reading, but it might not go into your essay at the end. So try and focus your research on what you need to, which is the rebellions and mainly the causes. So your homework this time, as I said, is to finish the first essay, which most of you have done now. The second one is, even though I've put a question, I'm literally after half a page to a page of work. I want you to research what were the main causes of rebellion under Henry VIII. So we're going now on to our second monarch. So all you're doing is explaining what the rebellions were and what caused them. I'm not after too much detail. I just want you to show me you understand it. Okay, and to help you out, there's 2 links there on the Amicable Grant. I'll put them in the description as well, so you can link them. These are 2 websites. This was mainly based around the economy, but again, it's a great one to use in your essay, in your final essay, because it not only is about the economy, but it's a great way of showing that around the time that people were bothered about other things, the economy was still the major factor for most Tudors. And that, I don't know who made that website, but it's very useful, the second one. And the Pilgrimage of Grace. Okay, so this, please spend a bit of time on this. This is the biggest rebellion that the Tudors face over the whole time period. Not only was it the largest in number of people being involved and the time period lasted, but also it had all 3 factors as causes. It was based around religion, it was based around the economy, and it was also based around dynastic and political factors. And there's another website there to help you. So those 4 websites should be enough. You could do that small homework. Right, guys, so let me just try and get back to the screen. That actually went okay. It's probably dead boring for you, so I apologise, but it actually went quicker than I thought it would. So please, any questions you've got, please let me know. Can you submit it via Google Classroom or the email? And hopefully I'll get it back to you a few days after you sent it. Okay, right, guys, take care, look after yourself, and I'll speak to you soon.